Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide, and in today's video I'm really excited and happy to actually do the in-depth review of the long-awaited, for me at least, long-awaited Boox Note Max, which is the newest successor in their 13.3-inch line. Not only is the newest one, but it's the first device that I'm trying out that has a 13.3-inch screen but 300 ppi as well. This device has kindly been sent to me directly by Boox, but I don't get to keep it unless I decide to purchase it for myself. But as long as I don't purchase it, then it is Boox's device, and then it goes back to them once I'm done with the reviewing process and creating all of these videos for you guys. That ensures full transparency and full independence of my deep guide. That independence is made only possible by you guys and your support, and you can definitely support by liking, sharing, subscribing, and also if you want to directly contribute and support my deep guide as an effort, you can do that in one of two ways. You can either do the super donor or super chat type of comment in YouTube directly, or you can go to mydeepguide.com/shop, where you can find my daily organizer, or MDO, and MMP, my deep guide meeting planner, both of which are hyperlinked PDF files that help you organize all of your personal or professional organizing needs. And in this video, and especially for this device, these products matter more than ever before, because everything combined, including the updated OS 4 functionalities, which are now working better than before, yeah, things are kind of interesting and opening up the possibilities, especially with 300 ppi, 13.3-inch, and all the functionalities and all the power of Note Max, combined with the power and flexibility and versatility of MDO or MMP. It makes for a good time. You can find more details about MDO and MMP in the hyperlinked playlist in the description below. And now, onwards with the Note Max. And here it is. This is the Boox Note Max, which is an Android-powered Google Play Store enabled and certified with all of the bells and whistles, 13.3-inch 1300 Carta HD display with 300 ppi. Monochromatic display, so no colors, no front light either, but that is a good thing in this case, because that minimizes that distance from surface to screen, which makes the content of the screen closer to the surface. However, the obvious shortcoming there is that there's no front lights, so you depend on the lighting in the environment that you are in. Note Max is a very well-spec'd device. The party piece is the 13.3-inch Carta 1300 glass screen with flat cover lens, 300 ppi screen. So this is a monochromatic screen without a front light. It is equipped with the both capacitive touch and the Wacom EMR layer, and it has a 2.8 GHz octa-core CPU, but the important part here is that this is Snapdragon 855, and the same type of CPU that was used on the Tab Ultra C Pro, and that means that it has that super powerful single core, which the other SoCs don't have. And that is something that you absolutely do feel on a day-to-day basis, because when it's coupled with this screen, which is capable to show you things in a much faster way than it was on the Tab Ultra C Pro, then this starts to actually make sense. It is also equipped with the BSR as well. It comes with 6 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage, which is not expandable because it doesn't have a micro SD card, but you do have the USB-C, and you can expand the storage via the USB-C. It runs on Android 13 with their Boox OS 4. Supports third-party apps, but the important part here is that this is also a Google Play certified device, so you can use Google Play services and Google Play Store normally. It has a power button, no fingerprint reader there, has a USB-C port which supports OTG, and it can be used as an audio jack with a converter that's not supplied. It has dual speakers, it has a microphone, it has a 3700 milliamp battery. These are the dimensions, impressively at 4.6 millimeters, and the weight is 615 grams. While on paper that weight definitely is there, but you have to consider that this is a really large device as well, and then when you put it together, it just doesn't feel heavy or weirdly balanced. It just works in a really, really good way. And the price for Boox Note Max is something that cannot be ignored, because at $650, it's not cheap, but $650 for this, you get the device, you get the cover, and you get the pen, and you get the extra tips. Yeah, like the Go 10.3, where the pricing was super aggressive, Boox Note Max definitely continues that trend, and it's gonna be a tough one to ignore. Really well priced device for what it actually brings to the table. Design-wise, Boox Note Max is a breath of fresh air for me, especially because what it represents. And it represents finally a redesign of their 13.3-inch housing format, which has been long overdue, because they've used the same exact type of housing for many years. Note Max follows in the Go 10.3 type of design footsteps, but to my joy, it has been actually improved quite a bit over the Go 10.3. The manufacturing, the design, and the execution of the Note Max is absolutely phenomenal. So you get a premium execution, premium materials, and premium design, as far as I'm concerned, on this device, and it is just a awesome thing to kind of hold, use, just observe, or just basically have and interact with. It is a fascinating device to work with. It's an excellent blend of modern and stuff that we've seen, with some touches and basically like accents of what we've come to expect from e-ink devices. So you have quite a bit of modern tablet type of design with the aluminum alloy edge, or basically unibody all the way there, with a very nice edge. No sharp edges here, so we do not have the Tab Ultra C issues here, none whatsoever. This is beautifully executed, rounded, and the flushness of the screen is absolutely perfect with the edge here. So that shows that actually Boox is learning and is listening. There is not a single thing that I can see that is actually wrong, or even anywhere near wrong. Now, the build quality, why I say that it's better than the Go 10.3. Well, the Go 10.3 has the same type of approach. They did something that I didn't really like and I wasn't a fan of, and these two back surfaces that you have, this one here and the big one here, they were almost like just a layer that was taped on the back, and that was protruding from the back. So that was like, you had the thickness of the device, and then you had this thing tacked on. And not only was it tacked on, but the edges of that material were sharp, and they were not nicely executed. And after a little while, at least on my unit, I developed a small kind of clacky, cracky kind of sound, which is basically the gluing of it was not exactly up to par, and there's like a small area somewhere around here that was not glued completely perfectly, and then if you press it, you hear a small little click. That is definitely not the case with the Boox Note Max, because this is not glued on. This is basically a part that is flush with the bottom of the device, and it's a very, very lovely non-slip kind of material. Overall, I really, really love the design of the Boox Note Max. There's only one nibble that I have with it, and that is the location of the USB-C port. I think that especially on a device like this, it should have been on the top. There is absolutely no excuse and no reason for it to be on the bottom. However, it is not a complete deal breaker for me, simply because this is a device that's equipped with the auto rotation, so I can have my USB-C on the top, but then my power button is on the bottom, which I can live with a little bit better. At least this way I don't have the physical obstructions when I want to use the device in a stand where it would not be possible to use. You will see later in the video what I mean. But other than that, this is a phenomenally built and designed device, and more time I spent with it, more I fell in love with the details, with the execution, and simply with the with all of it. It just feels and looks really, really good. The layout of the device: on the front you have the screen that is flush with the surface. The screen has a paper-like anti-glare screen protector pre-applied over the whole thing, and the reflections are really, really good, so it dims the reflections and mats them down in a really nice way. And the writing surface is extremely pleasant for writing, while it also allows really, really high quality of image to go through. So I think that it's an excellent balance between all of the aspects that a surface like this actually has a job to do. Around the screen we have an equal margin on all sides, which is a good thing. So equal width on the left and right side, equal width on the top and bottom, which is great because you will be using this device in portrait and landscape mode, and you don't need those distractions of actually having a wider or a taller edge or something like that. We do have a wider edge here, which is painted in white, and obviously the device has to have that because that's where all of the electronics are, since it is so thin. And when you have something that's thin and long, well, then there's a tendency, if it's not built completely perfectly, that it's going to kind of bend. But as you can see, this thing is built absolutely perfectly, straight as an arrow. When we flip to the left hand side, we have stereo speakers. We have kind of mounting holes and a 5-pin pogo, which I'm pretty sure is there to hook up with the keyboard cover, which is on the way. I don't have it yet, but when it does arrive, I will do the review of that. On the right hand side, we don't have anything here, but around the middle is the area where you snap the pen onto it, and it holds the pen really well. So you really need to shake a lot. And as I commented in the unboxing, this new design is an excellent pairing with their pen, because you have a flat side on the pen here and you have a flat side here, and that ensures that the magnetic connection and the magnetic hold is going to be much better than on the Note Air series, for example. On the top we have a microphone here, and we have a power button down there, and on the bottom, as I mentioned before, you already have the USB-C. When this is the power LED status indication here, which is actually quite nice, especially when it's charging and stuff. It's very cool. And there's the other microphone there. On the back, as I already described, you have the callback to the Go 10.3, same type of layout, but the execution and design is improved and much better than it is on the Go 10.3, and a very discreet design with a line here to allow pass-through of wireless communication, and just a logo here with the Boox Note Max make a difference. Pen that comes with the Boox Note Max is the standard, bog standard Boox pen. So it doesn't have an eraser, it doesn't have a button, it has normal standard exchangeable nibs with their normal standard. So really nothing special there. I think that they could have done a little bit more and included a better pen with this device. While there's nothing inherently wrong with this pen, it's fine. But if I was purchasing premium top of the line device like this one actually is, I would expect also their premium top of the line pen to be included, which is not the case here. Battery life of the Note Max is good, but it could be better. However, I will need to redo the battery test because this battery test was actually done immediately after the update was done and before me doing that additional restart after the normal restart that the device does on the update. And I just by accident ran into like a parenthesis small text that said that if you run an update, you can expect to have lower battery performance or higher battery consumption for the next day or so because of some background processes. And considering that I've done this like immediately after filming the first impressions without any additional restart and definitely within those first 24 hours, I have a reason to believe that these results should be different when I rerun the test. However, under these conditions, so I'm just telling you like what are the conditions that were there when I was doing this. When you're constantly reading and flipping pages every 20 seconds, you can expect to have 32.38 hours per charge. And when constantly writing, it's around 7 hours, 0.14. So both of these results are okay, but they could be better. Raw performance of Note Max is really, really impressive. And you can see here that I'm just comparing like Note Air Generation 1, 2, 3, 3C, 4C. Tab Ultra C Pro is the most relevant here because the Tab Ultra C Pro and the Note Max basically are using the same SoC. In single core synthetic benchmark, the Tab Ultra C Pro was higher, but in the multi-core, which is most of the operations in a system like this, it actually comes higher even than the Tab Ultra C Pro. And when you compare to the other devices from the Boox range, it's simply not a comparison. And the overall compute score, that's the GPU itself, it just obliterates the non Snapdragon 5.5 devices, and like the Tab Ultra C Pro did as well. On the work score, it's not really that much noticeable here, and for some reason it actually didn't score as high as the Tab Ultra C Pro. In fact, it scores almost identical like the Note Air 4C. I don't know if that's like a compatibility issue with the benchmark itself or not, but that is the score that it has. As far as the storage score goes, it's on par with the Tab Ultra C Pro. And then when we go to the Passmark performance test, we can see that the similar type of trend continues. And this is usually the most informative and most reliable benchmark that I like to use because it's very granular and it gives a very, very consistent and good reading. And here we can see that the CPU score is really high and quite considerably higher than on the Tab Ultra C Pro, as well as the memory score. The read disk and write disk is also on par. As far as disk read, it's actually higher than on the Note Tab Ultra C Pro, and disk write is pretty much the same. 2D graphics score is higher than the Tab Ultra C Pro, again way higher than the other devices in the Boox range, and the 3D graphics score is higher than the other devices but lower than the Tab Ultra C Pro. This difference actually makes sense simply because this is a 13.3-inch device with 300 ppi, so it's rendering a much higher resolution than the Tab Ultra C Pro does, and that just makes perfect sense. If the same CPU or the same GPU is forced to render the same type of content but at a higher resolution, you will have a performance drop. Image quality and rendering of text is really good on the Note Max, but it does have one issue that actually interferes with that depending on what type of content you are looking at. And the issue is ghosting. So this device or this display does have some ghosting issues. However, the ghosting issues are going to be more prevalent in graphics-rich content and less prevalent in text-only content. I've done quite a bit of testing in the initial unboxing and first impressions video, so I'm not going to go too far here, but there are only basic stuff that I do want to show here for people who haven't watched that. And the first one is that that the navigation and the speed at which Note Max actually refreshes and reacts is exceptionally good. This is the Regal refresh mode. So this is not the speed refresh mode, this is the Regal refresh mode, yet the device is incredibly fast and the panel is also unbelievably fast. I have never seen Regal refresh mode perform this way. You get like the best of both worlds. You get the best de-ghosting performance, you have the best crispness of images, and the crispness of text, which is really important. And as you can see, it really pops very, very nicely, especially on a more difficult document like this one is, which has very small, thin, dense type of font here, but it just handles everything without any hitch or any problem. And when I'm going through all of this, you can see that we have images, we have text. The ghosting is not really prevalent. You can see it if you look for it. So for example, here's an area that has a little bit of a grid before that. So right here, there's a bit of a grid, and that is from a previous screen before we entered actually the document. And that's what actually leads me to believe that the de-ghosting is a software-based thing that can be fixed that way, not just a panel. Either way, the way I've configured it, because I have realized that, yeah, I'll need manual refresh control more often on this device than usual. Well, thankfully you do have that option with whichever gestures, and I have configured that my side gesture from the left side in is going to be back, and from the right side in is going to be a full refresh, and then it just fully refreshes, and as you can see, all of the stuff is gone. So now with a clean slate with no remnants of the menu, you can actually see the real ghosting performance, and I think that it's perfectly acceptable and good on the content of this type. And to be honest, this is the type of use case scenario that I would use Note Max in 99% of the time. Is going to be research, reading, studying, and things like that, because it is just meant for that. It sits like perfectly for that kind of task. So in those kinds of use case scenarios, yeah, the ghosting issue is there, but it's really not that big of a problem, especially if you combine it with the gesture that is easily accessible to fully clear up any kind of ghosting. Now, just for reference sake, let's go to speed mode. Speed mode will degrade the resolution and the quality a little bit, but it will increase the speed at which you can kind of go through the whole thing. But to be honest, like the Regal refresh mode is so impressively fast. The only thing that you kind of get rid of is the flashiness of the Regal refresh mode, so that you don't have in the speed mode, if that kind of bothers you. But honestly, speed-wise, yeah, this is faster, but the Regal refresh mode is so quick and so good that yeah, I just don't see myself needing to resort to the speed mode, so I can just go through more of it. And then you can see that, yeah, when you have just text and formulas and things like that, the performance is just really good. I've tapped a little bit more on it, but to be quite honest, as soon as I go to the speed mode, you see like everything kind of bumps up a little bit and it's more contrasty, and that's not something that I'm a fan of. I think that the panel and the display quality is so good that there's just really no need for it, but you do have it if you need it. So I'll just kind of zoom in and show a couple of examples of the close-up of these types of formulas. So this is the maximum zoom level of the camera, and for reference sake, you can see the size of the nib, how big it is. And yeah, this is the way that it renders more difficult type of characters, and you can see that it really doesn't have any issues to make small or italics or custom characters. I mean, yeah, everything is perfectly crisp and visible, and this would be a particularly difficult example here with the parentheses being so close here, but it doesn't really matter because everything is very clearly differentiated, which is also very clear in these examples here. So and then you have the combination of symbols and the text itself, and everything is just rendered crisp, clear, and because of the size of the screen, you can actually have the device at quite a distance and not have any issues at all with readability, simply because the text is crisp, clear, the contrast is strong, and the balance is just a really, really good one. So for reading, research, and all that, studying or any that kind of use, it's a phenomenal type of a display. There was also a question how the device and the display would fare with displaying music sheets, and this is just an example of how this works, and I think that it works really, really well. The device is equipped with the gyro, so you can turn auto rotation on, and you can also only rotate vertically, only auto rotate horizontally, and you can rotate manually. So you have full control over the rotation aspects. But the cool thing about it is that, for example, if you do set the document to be in fit width mode, right? So if I just set it like this, and then it's fit width, so it's maximizing the whole of the page here. So that is, yeah, that looks really, really good as far as I'm concerned, because it's very precise. And because there's no front light and there's minimal distance between the surface and the screen, there's no content running under the margins of the screen, which is an issue that sometimes happens. But the cool thing is that you can now switch it to landscape mode, and now the readability becomes even more because it's just really, really good. So I just cleared the full screen refresh to kind of see how that works. And when you're in fit width mode, this is the power of the Neo reader, which I really love, is basically you flip down the page and then the next page, right? So down the page, next page, down the page, next page, and all the way through that. And this basically applies to any document that you may want to use. So if I go back here, and as you can see, the device is smart, and the OS is able to deal with this orientation properly, right? So now the whole OS is in landscape mode. My gestures are also reoriented, so everything seems to be working as it should. So let's say we open a study kind of a file here, and then we go to, again, fit width, and then you suddenly have this type of really, really clear and easily visible type of content displayed. Now the same thing is like, okay, maybe that's a little bit too much, so the fit width format works perfectly here. And then you have also the adjustments of how much margins you want. So maybe you want to increase a little bit margins here so it doesn't go all the way to the sides and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to go too much into the functionalities of NeoReader, simply because it is incredibly functional and powerful tool, and that has to be a fully separate video for something like that, because it's massive. It's absolutely massive. The only thing that I'm gonna mention is that by default it tends to have some text enhancement settings, like you saw. I just minimized text enhancements here, and I don't really like the default settings of the NeoReader. I think that it actually does a disservice to the image quality of most of the Boox devices, especially Note Max, because it is able to deliver crisp, sharp, thin content without any problems. And when you apply these kind of filters, then it just kind of ruins the whole thing, and it just doesn't really look as good. So for example, like the default is you have the dark color enhancement and light color filter always turned on. And when you actually start getting rid of all of that kind of enhancements type of stuff, then you start to get to see that this image quality on the Note Max is exceptionally good. So I really, really like how the image quality is and the versatility of it for reading purposes, for documents, for studying, for research, for notes. It really lends itself in a great, great way. However, there is an area where this screen actually struggles, or Note Max currently struggles, and that is with graphics-rich type of content. So here I have a magazine opened on the Note Max, and I'm just going to make sure that everything is done correctly. So I'm going to turn off text enhancement. I'm going to reset the fitting. Okay. I'm going to make sure that we're using image smoothing. ghosting so that we don't have color banding and things like that. And the problem is going to be in the ghosting. What I have noticed is that despite me actually updating and doing an update when I was doing the unboxing and first impressions, I had much worse ghosting issues and performance then, but since then I have done another restart. So it seems that the initial restart after the the update that I had, which was addressing the ghosting issues, didn't somehow apply. But after a subsequent restart with the new update applied, you can definitely see, like in the previous video, same settings, everything the same, and this type of image, when I was popping by, this thing was like shining through like crazy, and these little spires, they would shine through like crazy as well. That is no longer the case. And the only difference, yes, I do have the white of the text, it's still there, but overall the ghosting performance is way better. So some of the issues are better than what I had in first impressions, but you still have the situation where you have something like this, white page, black text, and then you go to a full screen, and then it's like you can just clearly read the previous page from the ghosting on this one. And so the consistency of de-ghosting in these types of conditions is simply not good. So some situations, yeah, the de-ghosting is going to be fine. Some situations it's going to be really bad. And this one especially is easily reproducible. Hey guys, Voya from the editing time. I'm editing the Note Max video here. And I had a thought and a realization that I wanted to check, because I'm right now at the section where I'm talking about the ghosting issues with the magazine and graphics rich stuff. And I was thinking, like, wait a minute, that was all in normal. How does it perform in speed mode? Because it didn't make sense that you have that much ghosting if it's BSR enabled. And sure enough, check this out. So here we are in a Regal refresh mode, the same page and the same example we've talked about, and there you go, like really bad ghosting and all that kind of stuff. However, if I swipe up, and I'm trying to navigate via the phone, so if I switch to speed mode and then tap back, did you see? The BSR took all of the ghosting away, and you can actually see the BSR actively working on de-ghosting these kinds of issues. I think that this is going to impact the battery life as well. So when I'm going to be doing retesting of battery life for the previously mentioned reason, I'm going to be testing the battery life in regular and in speed mode, and then see what the difference is. But definitely, if you have any ghosting issues, they are basically eliminated by using the speed mode, because the speed mode apparently enables the BSR. Additional thing reader-wise is that you have many different modes, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you do have split modes, which is an important one to cover and at least demonstrate on a device like this, because this is something that people may be interested in quite a bit. And that means that you can have the current document in a split screen mode, so basically like this, and then it's going to split it into a horizontal landscape type of a view, and then I can just go use here, and I can go style, fit width to actually maximize it a little bit, and I can do the same thing over here as well. Then I can fit width, and this is like two separate views of the same document, right? But what you can also do is you can get rid of it simply like this. You just kind of swipe to the side, and that's that. You can use the split view for basically splitting the screen for the current document, another document, so you can have two documents at the same time. You can have document and handwritten notes, you can have text notes, and you can have translate as well. And also the split view style can be vertical or horizontal, so you can actually do this type of division as well. And also this is adjustable, so you can have one, it's not just at the half, you can adjust it to your liking the way you want, and when you're done with it, you can either go back or you can just slide it up, and that's that. So incredibly flexible way of doing this. Page display can be like a scrolling view, or you can have two views, but this is not a split view. This is basically just you reading the same document in a two-page mode. So when you flip a page, you will flip two pages this way and that way. And of course you can go left page first, right page first, so any kind of orientation works. On top of that, we need to also mention the functionalities of what you can do with the text, right? So you do have the sidebar, which can be customized, and there's a lot of powerful tools to cover here. I can't go through all of them because the video would be like a gazillion hours long, and it's already going to be long because there's a lot to cover. But I just want to cover the most important aspects for Note Max as a reader device, because I know that a lot of people are going to be wondering, how is it for studying, research, PhD studies, or things like that. And one of the things that's really important is the ability to easily mark up documents. And there's many ways that you can actually configure this. So yes, there's a bit of a learning curve to learn all of the tools, but it's well worth it. So by default, when you just simply open a document and you use the pen, you can write with it, right? So you can just write and annotate and do all of these things. So that's fine, okay? But if you want to adjust anything writing-wise, then you tap on that on the little pen here, and that's going to open up a new toolbar. Confusing, yes, I know. That's how Boox is. You have two toolbars. One is for your handwriting stuff and pen stuff. The other one is for general functionalities. Okay. And here you can adjust which kind of brush you want to use, which color you want to use. You can add preset brushes. You can actually also draw shapes, different types of shapes with different types of colors for all for your annotations. You have eraser modes, undo, redo, save, selection tool, which also has some additional functionalities. So when you actually select it, you have the ability to change the color, cut it, copy it, select it, delete it, and all different kinds of stuff. I can't really go too much into details there, but I just wanted you to know where the controls are for the pen related tools. So that's a separate toolbar, and you get to it by tapping this icon here. Okay, fine. So that's your default. And by default, you can just long press on a word and then just drag along, and then you make a selection, right? And once the selection is made, I just made fit screen so that you can see it a little bit better. You can simply tap on it, and then you have the selection handles that you can adjust your selection. And with the selection, you can change it to underline, squiggly line, underline, dotted underline, or dashed underline. You can change the color from black or gray, so black and white, gray and black. You can blacken it out so it can be censored, and you can remove the whole thing, the selection itself. Underneath it, you have the options to copy it, dictionary search, translate, web search. It can read the selection to you. You can search the word. For example, if you select a phrase or a word, you can search the document for it. You can, I believe this is a different dictionary as well. Yeah, the third-party dictionary. You can export it, and you can actually even link this, and you can link to a page, to a file, to a website, and you can even link to notes, which is relatively new, which is really cool. You can make a selection, and then you can link to a dedicated notebook or a page where you're in the notebooks where you have certain notes regarding this type of thing. So for research, this is incredibly powerful because you can just select a section here that has a link that goes to a notebook where you do all of your other work, and then it's basically kind of self-contained. And from the notebook, you can also add a link that links back to the document itself. So you can create this kind of forward-back system between documents and notebooks, and you can, if you organize yourself in a good way, you can actually create a really powerful system with all of these functionalities. You have the AI functionalities where it can just do, it can do the
ChatGPT kind of lookup for what is being selected in there. But the cool thing is that you don't necessarily have to use your finger to do this kind of markup. There's several different ways that you can actually approach this, and it really depends what your preferences are. I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of how I would customize this thing. So for me, this is really a large panel and I don't need this toolbar to be that wide. So I'm just going to go to float toolbar settings, and I'm going to change the size of it down to something like 70%, because this is a very, very large screen and I want it to go down so that I can, there we go. And it doesn't interfere with the text. The crispness of the screen is perfect, and this works perfectly fine. And as you've seen in the customization of the floating toolbar, you can just simply drag and drop all of these custom functionalities to customize your floating toolbar to be exactly the way you want it, and you can change it to be vertical, horizontal, and yeah, all of these kinds of things. Tremendous amount of flexibility. Complicated, yes, but incredible amount of power definitely at your disposal. What are the things that I would normally do? Well, you have control touch interactions. So in the touch interactions, you have the option of use stylus for touch, for writing only when off, right? And basically I do like that, because if I turn use stylus for touch, now the touch will work for pages, right? But I can also use my stylus to substitute that type of thing. And more importantly, I can actually use it to select and adjust the selection and do all of the things that I've done previously, right? So for all of this stuff, I can just use it like that. So that is one of the things that's good. But for me, for example, if I'm going to be in that mode, I'm going to want to disable the touch completely here. And I want to disable the swipe and drag the page, system bar gestures, these bar gestures I want. So basically now I can do whatever I want with the touch on the screen, and the device and the app doesn't really get confused. And then I have perfect control over what is happening with the screen, and I can have my hand anywhere on the screen without any interference or unwanted interference, and I can slide my palm without any efforts, without any false recognitions or anything like that. To me, this is really important type of functionality, to actually be able to use the device very, very freely without worrying about false gestures, inputs of any kind or anything like that. So that's why I'm kind of showing you that type of thing. However, if that's not your thing, you can always kind of adjust these things and change them. You also have another thing at your disposal, which is basically the AI functionality. And the AI functionality, while it's going to slow down a little bit overall responsiveness of the gestures and things like that, it does offer quite a few interesting things. So it can do shape perfection. So you can just draw a shape, it will understand, hey, that's a triangle, square, or a circle, and it will just make it into that, which is fine. But much more importantly, you have text manipulation and selection type of shortcuts. So that means that I can underline a text and it's just going to select it. Then I can just circle text and it's going to make that selection as well. I can scribble stuff out and it's going to obfuscate the text, and for handwritten annotations I can scribble it out and it's going to delete the things. And of course you can double tap to text recognize what you've written, and you can also use the turn pages with the stylus in the lower right and left corner of the page. Now all of it is disabled by default and you can just choose what you want. So for now I'm going to enable pretty much all of them so that you can just see how they work. So for example, if we want a shape perfection, I just do this, it turns it into a triangle or a ellipse in this case, or a square. And it's like, yeah, I don't want that. And then it's gonna go, nah, that's gonna be deleted, right? And then I can go, this is a note that I like, and it's like, nah, a bit more, don't like. And then you can go like that. Oh, okay, cool. And then I can just double tap on this, and it's going to recognize, and it's going to turn it into a text box, which is not really ideal. As you can see, the recognition is not really that good. You don't have that much control over the formatting of it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not too big of a fan of this because it just doesn't really work as I would like it. But the good thing is that you can just kind of delete it, and that's that. Well, if it gets it. Sometimes it will not get it, and then I will have to resort to erasing all of the content on the page, and hopefully that's going to get rid of it, because I'm never sure like how does it treat. Yeah, then it erases all of the content on the page. So yeah, AI stuff is there, but yeah, for that, not that much. However, for this kind of stuff, so for example, this, I wanted that, okay, that's good. And then maybe this section here, I'm really interested in that section there. It just makes it so easy to select and mark up things in a really good way. So you have at your disposal so many tools and so many possibilities that it definitely can be overwhelming, and that is that learning curve that's always associated with Boox products. But the power that's there is truly tremendous, and in my opinion and in my view, I think it's well worth investment, and especially if you're using it for PhD studies or studies of any kind, of research of any kind, or anything like that. It's well worth getting into it, establishing that routine with your customized tools and truly making it your own. Then I think that this becomes an irreplaceable tool for tasks like that. And just one last thing before we move on from the reader type of stuff is that on the writing gesture, you also have the options to customize it completely. So of course you can customize the size, you can customize the orientation and all that kind of stuff. So let's say I want this to be 75% as well, and then I can add or remove the icons that I'm not interested in, and then I can just make it my own. So what I tend to do is, because I don't want to go left and right and do all that kind of stuff, I just make sure that both of them are same orientation. So let's say they're both vertical and they are both of the same size, and then basically I can just simply flip from one to the other. Well, I guess this one was 70%, so let's make it the same size. So let's go here and make it 70%, and then it should fit very neatly, and it suddenly then becomes a much more, there we go, and it becomes a much more better type of interaction, because my attention has not been kind of dissuaded there, even though these are two separate toolbars. User interface and user experience has been focused. So I'm focusing my attention here, and I'm not distracted by something that has changed. This is the area where my toolbar is, and when I press on that thing, the toolbar simply changes to these options. And when I press it here, it changes back to these options. And for me and my workflow, this is a far better type of setting than the one which just kind of goes up, down, left, right, and it just kind of distracts you all over the place. When you customize it like this, it becomes much more focused, and especially when you get rid of the garbage that you don't use in these toolbars, you can turn them into very focused tools. But it takes effort to learn, to see what it is that you like, what it is that you don't like, what are the tools that you use, what are the tools that you don't use. So yeah, it takes time, but it's definitely possible to make it a very special and powerful learning tool.
When taking a look at the preliminary test results of the mydeepguide display analysis framework, or the DAF, I think that it's interesting to just check it out and compare how does Note Max compare to the Tab X under the same conditions. And here, when we're measuring whiteness and blackness, it is obvious that the Tab X whites are whiter and better than on the Note Max. So Note Max does produce darker whites. However, it produces also considerably consistent and darker blacks than the Tab X. And that means that when we go over to the contrast here and we take a look at Note Max, it scores much higher than the Tab X. So Tab X contrast is at 604 to 1 and Note Max is 6.68 to 1. And that is something that's definitely observable when I look at the two devices side by side. Yes, Tab X is whiter, but Note Max is way more pleasant to read on, and it just has content that pops way more, and it's a nicer experience than the Tab X, despite the whiteness itself. When we check the noise index, we can see that the Tab X and Note Max are similar, but that the Note Max performs considerably worse than the Tab X. So both the white noise index and the black noise index are worse on Note Max than on Tab X. And that can also be seen in the uniformity, with the white index being lower but the black index being higher and better than on the Tab X.
Writing experience on the Note Max is exceptionally good on all fronts. So everything about it is great. That's the summary. First of all, contrast of writing is excellent. The latency is exceptionally fast, as you will see now in the following chapter with the D.E.S.T.A results. Then you have the lack of front light and a minimal distance between the surface and the screen, which means that you have maximum level of connection with the content on the screen. Granted, it's not on the levels of a Quaderno, but it's certainly a lot better than any other front-lit device from Boox. Another aspect that for me is really important in a writing feel is the surface resistance and structure. The structure is paper-like-ish, and it feels really nice to write upon. It has nice type of resistance, nice type of sound, and it feels good on the palm of the hand as well, which is important on a big surface like this. Although it is glass, without knowing that it's glass, I don't think that you would be able to tell that. I think that they are using a thinner, more flexible type of glass that was used on the Note Air 3C and the Note Air 4C, both of which have phenomenally good writing feel. And now when that's actually even scaled up, you have even more give when writing. And that means that you do not get that hard, slippery resistance whenever you have contact with the surface. On the contrary, it has give and it feels really nice, combined with the raspy kind of surface and the sound and a nice tactile feel on the palm as the hand is resting on the screen itself. It just feels very nice. And on top of it all, Boox as a platform has some of the, if not the nicest rendering of hand strokes, of handwriting, of any other ePaper platform currently available. So you put all of that together and then you have an exceptionally good writing experience. Is it perfect? No, because you do still have some issues, such as the first stroke when you start writing on a new page, although it has been improved, dramatically improved since the last update, but it still does happen from time to time. It's difficult to kind of catch it. So it's been definitely improved, but it still does happen from time to time, way less obtrusive than it was with the initial release of the OS 4. Overall, yeah, like across the board, writing experience on the Note Max, exceptionally good.
When I initially tested Note Max, I had to repeat both these test results for the A5X2 Manta and the Note Max, because I thought that I was doing something wrong, even though that I'm doing this test like a long time now. And nope, like repeat as much as I want. It's consistent, and it's really consistent. And yeah, the writing latency of Note Max with 13.3 inch, 300 ppi, and the resolution that it has is at 14.59 milliseconds, which is just a smidge over Supernote Manta. So it's like 0.4 milliseconds slower than Manta. And having an EMR on a 13.3 inch, 300 ppi perform this fast is absolutely fantastic. Surface to screen distance is better than on a regular front lit devices on Boox, where it's around 1 to 1.1 millimeters. But as we have in here, you can see the needle point right there, and just kind of coincides with the 0.9 millimeter distance. So it's definitely good, but from a non-front lit device, I expected this to be a little bit better and a little bit lower, and that would have given a little bit more of an impression of connectedness with the device. But even so, the surface to screen distance at 0.9 millimeters is good, but I have hoped for a little bit better.
The other powerful aspect of the Note Max is it as a handwriting and a notebook tool, which is also very powerful. So in the notebook itself, you have a lot of tools, and again, the default settings are not that great. I do understand them, but it's messy, it's overwhelming, and it's going to be kind of tricky. So again, that learning curve absolutely will be present, but I think that it's definitely worth it to learn how to use it and what to do. I'm not going to go through all of the tools and all of the functionalities here, simply no time for that. But again, I'm just going to focus on things that I think are important for somebody getting into this platform and maybe looking at this device that might be important or interesting to know. So basically, the first thing to know is that this is a multi-layer capable notebook, and you can control that with layers. You can have up to 5 layers in total, and the bottom layer is always going to be your template, which is your design. So basically, what are you going to have, lines, are you going to have squares, or whatever is the template that you want to use. This is the icon for the template, and you can see that you can have the access to the templates either here or there. It doesn't matter, it's all the same. That's important to kind of know, because then you can get rid of some of the icons to remove the duplicates and declutter the toolbar once you start getting more comfortable with this. As far as the templates go, you have a ton of different built-in templates, but you also have the option to add a custom PDF or image based template. This functionality is incredibly powerful because you can take like a really robust organizer file, such as my daily organizer that you can find on mydeepguide.com/shop. And even though this is like an 1800 pages document with over 11,000 hyperlinks, it will work. However, you do have to follow a certain type of workflow for it to work. Because if you already have like a notebook that has several pages and you've written in it and all that kind of stuff, and then you start and want to add a template from this type of document, it won't really work. Because if you want to apply the template to the current notebook at the beginning of it, it's going to be like applied to the current page, and it's an easy thing to overlook. And then you just go like, okay, yeah, I want to add this, and then you go here, And the only thing you can do is basically make a manual selection of several pages. And considering that there's 1800 pages, that's not really what you want to do. And then you go like, okay, so I can apply to all pages, and it says it's going to be irreversible. Now, I'm not going to do this here because I want to maintain that one. But if you're interested in actually creating a notebook out of a document like that, so for example, for MDO, My Daily Organizer, or MMP, the My Deep Guide Meeting Planner, the workflow should be something like this. You would go to where you want to create a new notebook, and then when you choose from the option to create a notebook, it actually asks you, what type of notebook would you like to create? Handwritten notes, text notes, or from a local file, or a quick notes, right? And then you go from a local file. That is the easiest way to perform an action like this. And then I can choose like, okay, which format do I like? I want Monday, 24-hour, and I like cover 2, right? So I'm just going to go like this, and then it's going to perform that action on its own. So what it's currently doing, it's importing those 1800 pages, it's applying single one to each to correspond one-to-one as templates, and it's also creating the hyperlink functionality. In this case, because it's over 11,000 hyperlinks and so many pages, it's going to take a little bit of time. But as you can see, Note Max is so powerful, it doesn't really take that much time. And then in no time at all, you now have the ability to have the MDO, like a really powerful document, as a notebook, fully interactive. So all of the interactions between the hyperlinks, which is the whole point of the MDO. So you can go from yearly view to a monthly view, and then from a monthly view you can check, okay, I want a week there, then I want to go to this day, and then you have in a day you have daily notes, you have your daily planner back to there, you have a daily diary, and all that kind of stuff. And from anywhere you can go back to anywhere else. So all of that functionality, but it's now a notebook, and that makes it so powerful and important, because as a notebook you have a lot of functionalities and abilities to that you don't have in a document, and all of the tools that you actually normally don't have in a document, such as inserting a link, inserting a voice recording that you can later kind of refer to. So I don't know, for meeting planner, for example, in a My Deep Guide meeting planner, and if you turn it into a notebook, you can insert recordings into meetings and then perform stuff later. The additional thing that's really important as well is, for example, in the MDO, by default, I have one daily note, and then you have 2 daily notes, right? But maybe that's not enough. Maybe you would like to add a little bit more, and then you can insert a page, and then you can just insert another page after, before, or last page. And then you can insert, let's say, horizontal lines. That's the one that I would like. And then I just go like this. Yep, that's what I would like. Yep, that one, and it inserts it. And the important part is that the functionality is retained. You're not breaking any type of linking functionality. And on top here, you also have your breadcrumb trail to go back to previous and first hyperlinks and things like that. So that type of functionality again ties into this incredibly powerful tool that the Note Max actually suddenly becomes, because when you equip it with a really deeply functional type of organizer workbook, such as MDO or MMP, and you couple that with the functionalities and the tools that you have in the Boox platform as a notebook, well, then that becomes like a whole new ball game, and it becomes a really difficult tool to ignore, again, for the purposes of well, even wider. This is beyond studying. This is for work, for personal journaling, or anything like that. It becomes extremely powerful. And an additional thing is that your notes that you make here are actually searchable. because it's OCR recognizable, and then these notes can be searchable. Please take in mind that because it's a really big notebook, 1792 pages, initial searches are going to be slow, but the system does index search results. So every subsequent search and repeated search results will be much faster, but initial search results will be slow. And on top of that, you also have the option of just kind of flipping it to a landscape mode if you want to have it even bigger, and then you have the ability to kind of scroll around and do this. And the good thing is that the scrolling performance is really good, and it's fast, it's reactive, and this is just in the normal mode. So if I switch to A2 mode, which is even faster, then the scrolling performance becomes even faster. So overall, the whole combination here, it becomes tremendously powerful. And just imagine a combination of, you remember when I introduced and I showed you that you can make a selection in a text that links to a notebook, and then it can link to your notebook, which would be, let's say, MDO or MMP or another notebook. And then in it, you create my link. And let's say we create a, got it. So that's first in like this. So I make a selection, and then I want to insert a link, and I'm going to link to a file or to another note, right? And then I can link to a file, and I can choose if I want to link to a file or to a page, right? So let's say page in this document, I want page 10, and you can use cover view as well to just see like previews, right? So if you want, if that helps, then you can choose a preview, and then it's like, okay, I want to go to this page. I'm going to go okay, and it's going to be icon plus title. Okay, fine. No, I just want an icon. I don't care about, or you can add like, okay, it goes to this PDF at page 13. But for me, let's say like this, and then it works. And now this link should get me to the document. So if I tap on it, it's going to tell me, hey, it's going to go there. And then it should open the document at that page, which it will. For some reason, it's asking me which document to use, but I can use it like this. So that can be like, and in here I can have another link that goes back to that document, and then you can start creating this kind of really complicated and powerful type of connection between different documents, notebooks, and all of this kind of stuff. And this being an Android, you can always have the ability of multitasking selection, and then you can just choose whichever it is that you're currently working on and quickly flip from one to another, right? So I can go back to the MDO view here and just flip back and forth. Functionality wise, there's a lot. There's really a lot. I think that I can only cover a handful of things here. As far as the brushes go, you have the pen, which is pressure sensitive. Then you have the regular brush pen, which is also pressure sensitive, but it's a little bit more kind of fuller and less precise. Then you have the ballpoint pen, which is not pressure sensitive. Then you have the graphite pencil, which is pressure sensitive and also reactive to the tilt. And you have the highlighter or the marker, which is not pressure sensitive, but it is transparent, right? So when you draw on top, it does have a little bit of transparency. And for all of them, you have different colors that you want to use, that you can choose from. The indication of the color is here. So you have red, grape, chartreuse, and then lemon, and all that kind of stuff. Of course, it's going to be rendered in grayscale because this is a grayscale device. But once you export this, then these writings in those colors will be exported in correct colors. As far as functionalities go, well, you got shapes that you can fill with different colors. You can customize your gestures. You have AI functionalities similar to what we've had before. So the same type that we've had before, you have it here as well, except that you also have the lasso recognition, which I think is a useful one, because then if it's turned on, so let's see, by default, there we go. So I can have this, and then I can just do like this, and it selects it. So I don't have to do a lot of menu diving. I can make a mistake, and then I can just say like, no, I don't want that. I did not actually enable it. In order to use that, I need to go here and then scribble to erase. Not supported? What? Why is not supported? Because it's supposed to work normally. Huh. Oh, there we go. Now it worked. I don't know what was not supported, but here, okay, so it works like this, but it doesn't work like this. No, it works. Sometimes, okay, whatever. So it works that way, so you can scribble stuff out. To delete it, you can just circle it around. So you have tons of functionalities, tons of options, and then there's even more, because then if you go into customize toolbar, you can see that there's all of these options to work with. One last thing that I would like to actually show here is the toolbar here. You cannot rescale it, right? So you can't do that, but right now it's messy because it has icons and text. Now that is important for new users while you're still learning things, so that you can create an association and understand which icons is referring to which function. But sooner rather than later, hopefully you will learn what icon is what, and then you can start actually making things better. And the first step would be to get rid of the text. That alone makes the whole toolbar a lot cleaner. And then as you actually start working through the whole thing, you can start to get rid of stuff that you are not normally using. So for example, I know that in layers I have my templates, so I'm just gonna remove the templates over here. I know that I have my refresh gesture on the side refresh, so I really don't need it at all. Text boxes, I'm not going to use a text box here, and if I am going to use it, I'm going to go into the additional kind of menu and go there. Let's say maybe I don't want to use the margin functionality at all because I don't care about it. Lasso tool doesn't really matter, since I'm going to be using the circling as well, right? So that's going to be my shortcut for that. AI, I will set it up the way it is, and I'm just going to leave it that way. And if I want to change it, I will go to the other options and then enable it from there. I'm going to reorder things so that my inserting of links is going to be there. But then again, I don't really need an insert link because I'm going to use always a selection tool to actually select something and link to it. Shapes and fill, I might use it, but sporadically. I'm not going to use that all the time, so I'm just going to remove all of these from here. And finally, I'm just going to go like, okay, so this is going to be all the way at the end. The share and export recorder is going to be an additional tool, but I'm going to put it somewhere here that is kind of easily accessible. And a zoom I am not going to use. So I'm just going to clean it up in that way. I'm just going to move the page, adding of a page over here to kind of reorient things. Let's see, there we go. Push it out, and then I have that. So let's see what this looks like once it's rearranged. Suddenly, from that huge mess that was completely overwhelming, we are starting to focus this to be our tool completely. And I want to have my tools that I'm using all the time only at the disposal here, and not distract me from anything that I don't care about. And for me, that's really a preferred way of actually working with this, to kind of start with a really focused, minimalistic approach, only the tools that I need right now. And everything else, I'm gonna, push it away. And then I'm gonna check like, okay, wait a minute, there was a tool that I might want to use more often. So maybe I'm going to use a recorder. I'm just going to add it there, and I'm going to spend time working with this setup and see how much do I use it and how much it kind of helps with all that kind of stuff. And of course you have the full screen view, and you can also use the same icon here to kind of hide it, and unhide it by pressing that button. And a similar thing here is that you can customize this toolbar as well, which I think is important. I would do personally the same thing to have consistency all over the whole experience. So I would go down to 70 and I would make it vertical. And I would place it in the same place where I have the whole thing. So for example, like there's really no reason to have collapse over there, but I can't really remove it. I can't move it. So that's kind of annoying, but all right. And now when I go here, I can just move this somewhere around here. And this is my kind of view when I'm in full screen mode. When I exit full screen mode, then I have this. It would have been preferable to also have the scalable option of these lines as well, or the margins to kind of minimize them, or maybe hide this or have a floating toolbar, but we don't have that. However, these are the options that you can use to customize this and make it a little bit more on your own. The toolbar here is a little bit more kind of locked down, and these are the locked down options. So everything here, full screen, adding brushes, undo, redo is pinned, and collapse is pinned. However, the cool thing here is that you can add the functionalities from the main menu to this bar. And then you can actually turn it into you just using the front, the main toolbar as the main kind of thing. And you can just arrange it any way you like. So let's say that I want first the brushes, then I want my layers. I don't know, why do they not go there? You can't. So there's these limitations. You can't really arrange it exactly the way you want. But okay, fine. Let's go through the stuff that I need. So I do want to have my share and export here at the end. I want the ability to add a page here after the layers. And I would like the recorder functionality also to be somewhere around there, but the layers should be the first one, or the page, it doesn't matter. And now I'm starting to grow this toolbar. Let's make it a little bit bigger so that you guys can see it, because see, there's again the problem. This scaling is not the same as the scaling in the Neo reader. It's like they're getting there, but they're missing these really important aspects. But okay, I can turn the experience of the notebook to be no longer that huge kind of mess of icons all over the place. Instead, I can turn it into either a customized experience and focused experience as a full screen mode, as you've seen here. And after a while, when you become even more experienced with the tool, then you can actually turn it so that your notebook experience is always in full screen, and that your toolbar is basically here. That's going to contain only the tools that you know that you're going to be looking for and that you're going to know that you're going to be using. And furthermore, that toolbar is then collapsible. That can be easily just kind of called upon from here. But honestly, in a device with this much real estate, it doesn't really matter. So I just wanted to kind of share a workflow approach and thinking about the Boox platform, because I know that it's overwhelming in the reader and in the writer aspect. And when you open it up, the default settings are just way too much. But there is so much power, and there is a way to get to a much more focused type of workflow that is a serious and good workflow, although there are going to be still frustrating bits and pieces. And while the default settings are not that good and really kind of confusing, there is a way to make it a much more approachable and better user experience, although it does require time, and it does require that you learn the whole platform for a little while. The overall user interface, I've already covered OS 4, and you have a lot of details. So I think that you can check out the video that's dedicated for OS 4 update and what's there. So I'm not going to go through all of that. The home screen resembles a more kind of regular type of Android-ish experience, which means that all of the apps that you install will be installed and will be appearing here on your home screen and on your desktop. And here you have an indication of how many pages per you have on the home screen. You will always start from this main home screen. If you swipe to the left, you will have this kind of quick launcher view with the widgets that are customizable, and you do have widgets that you can add on your screen and on other screens as well. While the widgets from third-party apps are supported, that support is currently kind of weird because the third-party apps do get to be suspended, and if they are suspended in the background, then the widgets turn off as well. So you're best off kind of sticking to their own built-in widgets, which are there to help you organize things a little bit better. And you can customize the home screen by simply pressing and holding for a little while, then you get into the edit mode. The additional aspect is that this is a full-on Google Play certified device, which means that you have a normal Google Play app here at your disposal where you can install all of your apps that you want and use them in a normal fashion. So that means that you can install Kindle, you can install Kobo, you can install the browser that you want, you can use it for YouTube watching, Spotify, while you have the ability to synchronize and connect to third-party cloud systems such as Google Drive, OneDrive, and things like that. I choose to use AutoSync, and that is something that's supported across different platforms, and then I can just simply integrate the whole thing into my existing workflow. Boox platform does support OneNote, so you can use OneNote, you can use Evernote, and you can write there, and the writing latency is good. It's not excellent as in the normal notebook, but it's definitely good. However, that doesn't mean that that writing latency translates to other apps. So an app has to be optimized for an e-ink protocol of refresh methods, and so far only the OneNote and Evernote are optimized for that option, and plus it also works in a little bit of a cheat mode, but still it kind of works. I don't have them installed because I don't use them. I don't want to have those accounts just to be able to kind of demonstrate it. There's going to be somebody else who's going to demonstrate that. I'm just going to mention it that it works. The versatility of Note Max, it being an Android Google Play certified system that's actually capable of delivering and doing a lot of things, means that when you couple it with everything else that we've covered here, reading wise, writing wise, screen wise, all that kind of stuff, you add a little bit of accessories which it can effortlessly connect to, and then it turns into an even more impressive of a device. So yeah, it has Bluetooth, so it can connect to any kind of Bluetooth peripheries, including headphones, mice, keyboard. You can even use custom wireless dongles, and it will support that. So for example, here I have the knock-free keyboard, which I really like to use for this kind of stuff, and it can work wirelessly or via cabled mode. So let's first test it in a wireless mode, which is using the USB-C adapter here as well. And this is where the location of the USB-C on the bottom becomes a bit of a problem, because I have a stand here, right? And normally I would like to use now this device in a portrait mode to type up a document. However, I have a problem because the USB-C is all the way here on the bottom, and because of this adapter I don't have enough height to do that. Thankfully, it having auto rotation option, all I need to do is simply rotate it upside down and then use the dongle into here, hook it up, and it's going to tell me, hey, yep, that's it. Okay, now we're good. I can just go to my Google Docs. I can open a document that I worked on before where I want to continue writing. Then I can lift up the tents, turn on the Wi-Fi on each of the halves, and we should be good to go with typing on the Note Max. And we really are, which is really, really cool. Now this setup here, I'm really, I'm holding my hands in a very weird way so that everything is in frame. So my typing is going to be really bad, but the overall responsiveness and the controls, I mean, first of all, you're using the Google Docs app, so you know how it works. It has all of the normal functionalities of selecting and, you know, formatting. So you have your word processor normally. You could use a Word app, it doesn't really matter, it just works. The benefit number two is that you have different keyboard layouts, so you can use different keyboard layouts to actually match what you have. Again, benefits of this being a modern Android system. Additionally, you can also adjust your refresh modes how you want them to be, but I can also switch to normal mode, where rendering is very nice. Yes, it is slower, but it is very crisp and lovely to read. The occasional blinks is a full screen refresh, which is something that you can also adjust when you're optimizing the app. You can adjust when and how often it happens, etc., etc. So again, here's the leitmotif where you can basically see that default settings are there, but this is a type of device and a platform that really does require you to learn what its functionalities are, how it works, and what the potential is, and then you start to customize it and make it your own, because the options are definitely there. Not all functionalities are there that I would like to be, and there's of course limitations, and there's of course frustrations with the Boox platform, but I have to say that the recent OS 4 updates have addressed a lot of issues, and that is now starting to pick up the OS 4 to be a much more focused and better organized type of a platform. But you have additional things on top as well. You have an overall AI assistant, which is basically ChatGPT that goes through, kind of integrates, but not really. I wouldn't really use that. I would just, if you want to use ChatGPT, just install ChatGPT because you can, and then you have your own account, your own control, and all that kind of stuff. FreeMark basically takes a screenshot of the system, and then you can annotate it, and then you can export that and send. Quick notes, shortcut, kids mode for limitations, Boox drop, screen mirroring, split screen system wide, can be horizontal or vertical, taking a screenshot, scrolling screenshot as well, which is very useful, screen recorder as a video. Then you have hand touch overall controls, mute and notifications, do not disturb, location disabled. You can use it as a hotspot as well. Turn to an airplane mode, and the Boox drop controls as well, which is a different way to kind of transfer files directly to your tablet. On top of that, again, this being an Android system, you can install screen mirroring apps of your own choice, and it could be used as a external 13.3-inch monochromatic monitor for your computer, for coding, or for something like that. The only thing that I would stress as a point of caution, if you're going to use it as a monitor, do not keep it plugged into the power, because then you're going to overstress the battery and you run the risk of damaging it, and it inflates, and then it damages components, the screen, etc. So it's just a bad idea. So if you're going to use it as a monitor, external monitor, and you want it to be plugged into a charger, I think that it needs to go with a power limiting app that will limit the charge to 60% and not charge it above that.
And it's conclusion time for the Boox Note Max, and as usual we start with the cons. And the number one con will have to be the current state of ghosting, although it is already showing signs of improvement. The second con for me would be the cover itself, and the cover is fine. I mean, it works, it has the applications, and it's easily applied and all that kind of stuff. But the lack of the portrait stand mode is something that I simply don't understand why it has not been included, especially on a device like this where it's really, really important. USB-C port not being on the top but actually being on the bottom, it doesn't really make any sense. Yeah, should have been on the top. While Boox OS 4 with the current updates that are coming out for these devices is absolutely getting better, there's still quite a bit of a learning curve to it, and that's going to be a little bit of a deterrent to some customers. Now on to the pros of the Note Max, and there are many. There are really, really many. So let's start with the writing latency, which is completely awesome. Writing experience on the Note Max is exceptionally good. I absolutely adore writing on this device. Image quality, ghosting aside, so ghosting, yes, we addressed it in the cons, but the image quality itself, the capabilities of the screen and what it produces when you just swipe on the side and de-ghost it, is really, really impressive, especially on a screen of this size. As a researcher, learning type of a reader, processing information, organizational type of device, it is incredibly difficult to beat Note Max. I love the design and I love the improvements that this design and build quality brings over the similar design that we've had on the Go 10.3. The performance, raw performance of the device, I keep getting surprised by how reactive the whole device is, and that is then coupled with the responsiveness and reactiveness of the screen, which is also fast, and the quality as well there. It's kind of ridiculous because aside from the ghosting thing, which again you can just swipe and get rid of it, there's everything's great. Like the resolution is great, the clarity is great, the contrast is great, the speed is great, the refresh is great. It's like, what the hell is going on? At times it was a little bit confusing because it's like, okay, well, what the hell happened in between? Where are the in-between steps? And that's how this one feels, like a leap forward when we're talking about going from Tab X to Note Max. And I think personally that the pricing of Note Max is really, really good and a pro. Now, it's ridiculous to call it a cheap device, but think that for a 13.3-inch device that brings so much goodness and so much to the table, it's basically like the Go 10.3 was. This is a really, really aggressively priced device, and like the Go 10.3 caused a bit of a disturbance in the marketplace and making it very difficult to not recommend that device and very difficult to overlook that device. Note Max does the exact same thing in the above 10.3 range, because yeah, you cannot ignore it. All right, so to summarize Note Max, I'm gonna keep it really, really short. Prerequisite here is that you are able to read the specifications of a device and that you have the capability of keeping that in mind to begin with. So that means this is not a color device and it doesn't have a front light. Let's put that as our starting point. If you are mainly interested in reading comic books and super graphics rich type of content on this device, for those types of use case scenarios, absolutely it can be used, but the ghosting is still a bit of an issue. The second aspect where Note Max may not be the right device for you is if you are looking for something super uber simple to use. Unless you're falling into those categories, for everything else, Boox Note Max is an extremely difficult device to ignore and not recommend. I am completely blown away by it. And my expectations were really, really, really high. So I expected a lot from this device, and it managed on every front except the ghosting. It managed to over-deliver and surprise me time and time again. I've tried to share you what my typical use case scenarios are, and that is document processing, reading and studying for that kind of stuff. and also writing and integrating these two kind of worlds into a more kind of linked type of a system. And if that's the type of workflow you rely on and what you're looking for, this device is absolutely phenomenal for that. What I can't really attest to is if your workflow depends on OneNote, Evernote, and things like that. I don't use those apps, and I don't intend to start using them, and I don't intend to put user accounts or things like that just for the purpose of testing this stuff. So I really can't tell you from that perspective how Note Max fares. I think that it should fare okay, but not as good as if you were to employ the native Reader app and native Writer app. Simply because I know that the OneNote and Evernote, although they are a little bit optimized, they're not really designed to work on an ePaper device. I'm looking forward to checking out the keyboard to see how that actually fits with the whole shebang. But for me, currently, this is a complete no-brainer, and I will be definitely purchasing this device that I have here. So I'm going to be typing away to Boox and tell them, hey, I want to buy this one and I want to keep it, because this is a device that I do not want or can be without, now that I've seen the light. It's just too good for me to ignore, and it fits too well into my existing workflows. It's like right smack where I hoped that it would be. Alright, I hope that you found the video informative and or useful. If you did, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell in the description below to get notified when new videos come out on My Deep Guide. And also do share the video on your platform so that we can expand the awareness of My Deep Guide to even more people, and that they can find hopefully useful and objective and impartial information here on My Deep Guide. Also, I would like to hear from you in the comments down below what your opinion is of the device, but also more importantly, what are the additional things that you would like to be able to see? But please don't tell me OneNote and Evernote, because I will not be doing those. So aside from OneNote and Evernote, nope, that's not going to happen. But other stuff that you would like me to kind of maybe test and that you're interested in on seeing how these things work on the Note Max, so that I can take them into consideration and then maybe make supplemental videos that explore further capabilities of a platform like this. Because as I've said multiple times throughout the video, there's way too much functionalities that a device like this brings to the table, and it's simply impossible to cram it all up in one video. So there's going to be more videos, more focused ones, and then just kind of demonstrating these things, and it helps to have your input on that as well. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!